Chag Sameach, Happy Chanukah. Like most of us, last night I had the opportunity to light the Hanukkah candles and, as is traditional, place them in my front window and had the opportunity to see the beautiful lights of Hanukkah shining into the darkness of the night. And as I was doing that, I was reminded of a fascinating commentary that I came across recently about the origins of Hanukkah. Now, most of us, all of us really, have understood that the origins of Hanukkah come from the story of the Maccabees, in which there was a revolt against the Greco-Assyrian rulers who were oppressing the Israelites at the time, and that victory and the rededication of the temple with the miracle of the lights for 8 days is the origin of Hanukkah. And indeed, of course, it is. But according to the Talmud, the origin of Hanukkah is actually a lot older. And I mean a lot older. Because according to the Talmud, the first Hanukkah was actually celebrated by Adam and Eve. And according to the story in the Talmud, Adam and Eve were coming close to this time of year, which, as we know, is round about the time of the winter solstice. And as the time went forward, they noted that the darkness was greater, that the sun set earlier, and the amount of time of night was more and more and more, and they started getting panicked. They started thinking, wait a second, if every day the world is getting darker for a little longer and a little longer and a little longer, doesn't that not mean that eventually it's just going to be dark all the time and it'll be the end of everything? And worried about this possibility, they decided to fast for first 1 day, then 2, and then eventually it got to 8 days. And by the time those 8 days were done, they realized something. They realized that actually in the midst of that, the days actually started getting longer again. That the sun, the light, was out for longer. And so finally they realized that this, their first ever winter and experiencing darkness, was not the end of the world, but just what was normal. That every year it would get darker and darker, and then eventually lighter and lighter. And so the next year, instead of fasting, they celebrated, realizing that this was the time of year where we recognize that even in the midst of the greatest darkness, there will eventually be light. And I think it's a really important lesson to learn for us today. We are facing a lot of darkness as Jews, as human beings in general, and it's easy to give in to that. It's easy to give in to hopelessness, to think that there's nothing we can do, that nothing will change, that the world will just continue being worse and worse and worse. And in fact, what our tradition teaches us, what Hanukkah teaches us, is that it will always get lighter. It will always get brighter. As long as we keep lighting those lights, as long as we keep shining those lights against the darkness, that actually the darkness will never completely overtake us, because we are doing everything we can to bring more light into the world, to shine it out into the darkest times, and help us, inspire us to get through those times into the light that will surely come. So again, Chag Sameach and Happy Hanukkah.